Alright, I hope you enjoyed this video, but if you didn't watch it, check it out. I was really impressed. So let's talk about the mythical Pokemon Zeraora. Similar to Golisopod, Zeraora was another one of those, this kind of surprised me type of Pokemon. But I mean, it did have its own feature film within the Power of Us, so it does make sense that it would be maybe a bit higher on the list. This is also not one of my all-time favorite Pokemon. It's more of a casual like, very similar to Golisopod, but after I was done handling that figure, I kind of had a new appreciation for Golisopod, so I feel like I'm going to have the same type of reaction, at least hopefully, with Zeraora. Another similar story, a Target exclusive, $19.99 is the price point, which is still incredible for these Trainer Team Series figures. Of course, I will put the links in the description, and you'll see the little tagged icon right there where you can easily grab it. And of course, here is the barcode and the Target DPCI to help you track this down. This figure holds its own really well. You don't really need the articulated stand to keep it in a neutral standing position or even like a kind of slightly walking position. The tail actually comes in handy because it is bendable and you can move it all different directions. You could use it as a counterbalance to prevent the figure from falling. Anytime they use that bendable wire for a tail or something like that, it's always greatly appreciated. Now there's a lot of joints, functional joints, throughout this entire figure, but I will say there are some areas you got to be a little careful with. Specifically at the arms, where the swivel joint is, it is a little weaker there, so you can tend to pop it out or break it. I thankfully did not do that with my figure, but I can see that happening. Now overall, the joints feel really nice and snug to this figure, specifically at my shoulder joints. There's a hinge and swivel there. I had a really hard time getting those to move and articulate, so what I did to make sure I didn't break it is I used a blow dryer to kind of heat up that plastic, and that made it softer, and I was able to then kind of free the plastic and get it to articulate. So if you're feeling that way about any of the joints, don't force it, don't break it, heat it up a little bit with the blow dryer or some hot water. That way it softens it so you don't risk breaking it. This figure is also significantly lighter than Golisopod, which definitely helps it stand. There's also multiple joints at the legs. You can separate them. The feet are able to stay planted flat-footed, and that also helps this figure stand on its own. Overall, the sculpting looks really nice. They've done a really good job making these Pokemon look accurate to how we see them within the animated series. Now, the paint applications are a little dodgy here and there. I have some a little bit of paint smear at the ears and also down by the feet. And this is really one of the first times I've ever had a figure have any paint app defects. I guess let's start with the bendable tail. So it does connect to the shoulder blades back here, but the entire thing has that wire throughout, and you can pretty much bend it at any segment. When you get closer to the shoulder blades and the tip right here, it becomes a lot harder to bend. But for the most part, where it counts, where you need it to bend the most is going to be here at the middle to kind of position it from left to right, and you can do so with ease. At the head, you do have that basic hinge and swivel right there, so you can take the head, tilt it forward about that far, nothing really going backwards just because the fur kind of gets in the way, but you can look from side to side a great amount, and it doesn't look like you can quite go all the way around just because the kind of chin gets in the way, and I don't want to really force it, but still, this is a significant amount. This shoulder right here is where I had that biggest issue of the tight joints, and I had to use the blow dryer, and it's still kind of fighting me a little bit. The upper arm is still not swiveling all the way around. I mean, it is here and there. I might have to heat it up again, but you can take this upper arm, spin it around, and then you can completely bring the arm up a full 90 degrees. You can bend it downwards just like so, but it's this arm joint that I told you have to be careful with because you could pop it out or you could break it. So it is just a simple swivel. You can take the arm and you can spin it all the way around. Now when you're trying to actually articulate the shoulder, you want to try to actually use this joint that the shoulder is attached to and not so much this arm, because that's where you're going to end up breaking it. And then just below it, we do have double joints right here at the hand and the elbow, so you can bring this arm and you can basically fold it completely on itself, which is super impressive, and that will definitely help you with some more dynamic poses. And then something that I really loved is that each of these little fingers has articulation, and that's no surprise. I mean, they did the talons for the legendary birds, so we saw that, and it is very cool to see this also apply to Zeraora, and it's just a little bit of movement. It's nothing crazy over the top. That one's super snug, but it is still enough to notice, and I am greatly appreciative of it. Now, it may look like there's only one joint here at the torso, or I guess the abdomen, but there is another one here at the tops of the hips, and with both of these combined, you can get a good amount of flexion moving forward. So we can do a crunch this way and then going backwards, backwards. You can hyperextend backwards just a little bit, which is like really nice. So you can see this joint right here moving as I bring it forward, and that is great. Both of those combined will really help this figure out. At these hips right here, it seems like we do have a ball joint, so I can bring them outwards and then inwards, and then I can also get that like running position. And these joints are like super snug, which is great. I mean, they're not like over the top, like I have to use a blow dryer, but they are snug and will definitely prevent this figure from falling over or like doing the splits. Moving down from that, we have multiple hinge joints right here and no real swivel action going on. Most of that's going to come from those hips, and there is some slight rocking action right here at like the ankle. But you can take this first knee and bring it forward and then bring it backwards like so, and then just below that we have another joint, and all of these will kind of articulate in their own fashion. Before we wrap up, let's do a quick measurement. Pokedex has Zeraora at 4 feet 11 inches, and this is definitely a much bigger figure than that, just under 6 inches. At last, here's the new figures from Wave 8 of the Trainer Team series. And it's crazy to think that this line started in June of 2021, and we are at now 21 Pokemon from this Trainer Team series. I'll probably do a full collection once like Mega Charizard comes out, or if they like release all of Series 9, then I'll probably do it then. But it's crazy to think like how far this line could possibly go and how many Pokemon they could bring to the table. I mean, right off the top of my head, if we could get Steelix, I mean, that would be amazing. But I'd love to know what other Pokemon you want to see made within the Trainer Team series, and if Jazzwares is watching this, maybe they'll make it happen. But when it comes to Zeraora, it is a solid figure. For being a bipedal Pokemon, it can stand on its own without the articulated stand, which is a big plus. It does have that bendable wire tail, which is also super cool. Anytime that they can apply that, I really enjoy it. It does have an immense amount of articulation, like joints at the claws, as well as extra joints at the shoulders, arms, hips, and torso, which all of that really helps this figure maintain a bunch of different poses, especially if you want to use that articulated stand. But I will say, you got to be careful with that one joint that's at the bicep, which is strictly a swivel. That one I can see being susceptible to breaking, so if you do have stiff joints at that shoulders, please heat them up with some water or like a blow dryer. Don't break your figure. I did have a few areas where the paint applications were like a little smudged and smeared, but this was the first time it's ever happened with all 21 figures, and it was just kind of like the roll of the dice. I placed this for order pickup. I couldn't physically go see which one I was going to grab off shelf. It was basically at the mercy of the Target employee. But at the end of it all, this figure is still worth every bit of $20, and I'm so happy that they're still able to maintain that $20 price point. But thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this unboxing and review of the new Zeraora figure from the Trainer Team series. If you enjoyed this unboxing and review, be sure to like and subscribe. It helps out the channel, lets me know that I'm doing a good job, and make sure you connect with me on Instagram and TikTok to stay up to date when new things drop, like the rest of our Trainer Team series and Mega Charizard coming soon. Until then, collectors, I'll see y'all in the next video.